Bob, like, what do you,
You
apparently,
gotta call the meeting.
what do you need
So,
from us?
call to order.
I don't deal with the water company.
Draft the prayer.
Water company cuts our roads open without permits all the time, and all of a sudden now.
I think our code chair called the meeting to order.
Oh, really?
Call to order.
Why? Oh,
Bow your head for a silent prayer.
that's no surprise.
Not at all.
Oath of allegiance.
So here, gavel.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided indicating the time and place of the meeting in accordance with Chapter 72 of the Public Laws of 2025 by advertising a notice on Township website, Lopatcong by posting a copy on the bulletin board in the municipal building by direct hyperlink placed on the New Jersey Secretary of State's portal.
Roll call. Members Coyle,
Here.
Coy, George,
Here.
Hardy,
Here.
Lawler, Menducci, Polito,
Here.
Weeks,
Here.
Vice Chairwoman DeLeo,
Here.
Chairman Sampson. Okay,
There's a quorum.
we got a quorum.
Old business to approve the minutes, the regular minutes of March 25th, 2026.
Motion. Second.
Members Coyle,
Yes.
George,
Yes.
Hardy,
Yes.
Polito,
Yes.
Weeks, Vice Chairwoman DeLeo.
Yes. Next up, digital signage, the final ordinance to be presented to council for consideration.
Kristen is our planner this evening.
Yep. Hi, everybody. I'm Kristen Russell. I'm with Colliers. I'm filling in for Dan this evening. I have been working with him for some time on both the ordinances that we're going to talk about tonight, and he shared with me the notes that he took at your last meeting and charged me with making the edits that you all requested. So I'm just going to run through them for you. The ordinance on the signage, there were very minimal edits that I saw as your request. The language that we had last time included under freestanding signs, letter A1F, if you're following along, did and does continue to say the digital sign shall not advertise or promote goods or services not sold or offered on the premises where the sign is located. While that in and of itself does mean billboards, I reiterated that by more directly saying in a second sentence, digital billboards are prohibited, just for the sake of making sure everybody knows what was going on there. Continuing, subsection G, I added the word zone, which had been missing, and subsection L, I added clarification that digital signs may not be building mounted. From the notes that Dan gave me, again, it seems like that was all that you had asked for revisions, but I'm happy to hear your comments, and if there are any further revisions, we can talk about that and implement that.
Anyone have questions?
Do we approve it now?
Do I make a motion?
Yes, and Madam Vice Chair, it's not an official resolution, but it would just be a motion to recommend the ordinance to the township to consider adoption. And think about it, they have the power to zone, not us, so it's a referral. And then if they were interested in moving on it, they would introduce the ordinance, it would get referred back for a determination by this board whether it's consistent with the master plan, and then we'd refer it back to them.
I have a question for me. Can you explain the difference between I and B below?
Oh, okay. Oh, because B isn't talking about freestanding signs, it's a separate.
Digital sign may not be mounted.
Yep.
May not be mounted. Digital signs may not be building mounted. That's I, and then it says B, only one sign may be placed or.
Because that's not a digital sign.
So I is
Right,
under.
B is unrelated to
The
the
one.
to the
Digital
digital
aspect.
signage.
Yeah.
Something.
Just
Right.
saying generally, like,
A sign.
business could have a sign on the front
So it can't
side.
be interpreted different.
Correct,
Right, like-
down the road.
it wouldn't be.
Section AI is talking about freestanding signs and digital messaging, and section, A1 is talking about freestanding digital signs, and then B is a completely separate, it's like a new thought.
Yeah, it's a separate regulation related to building mounted
I
sign.
think, if I can add, I think.
The zoning officer is
Being a
here.
zoning officer, I think you may want to clarify that. Because I know what's gonna happen. Someone's gonna come in and say, well, it says B says, upon the front facade, and I'll argue with them, well, that's not what the intent of the, like, if you put in there one, sign, one non-digital sign.
So it should say one non-digital sign,
Yeah,
maybe,
because
please?
it's very, Brian's very correct in that. People often come in with signs and they take the paragraph above it or below it.
And the reason why it's important is because it's under A.
Well, I guess someone could misinterpret it. 24355A is related to freestanding signs. And then the freestanding sign regulation has a subsection related to freestanding digital messaging signs.
I think
So
it's more- I think it's more not
24355B,
even-
unless you're a lawyer, you're not gonna know.
Yeah, but they're very connect.
Or you're reading
So
these
would it be-
regulations
Would it
frequently.
be okay to, would it be in everybody's agreement to say that B, subsection B should say one non-digital, digital
Yes.
sign,
Yes.
maybe, please? That'd be
I can
acceptable.
do that, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So with that,
Yeah, non-freestanding.
with that small correction, I think that if there's no other questions and everybody's
Oh, yeah.
okay with that, the board could make a motion to recommend this with that change to the governing body to consider.
Can I also ask, since we talk about digital signs, but we didn't actually define what is a digital sign, and that would also help clarify what's allowed mounted on the building and not mounted. A digital sign inherently, to me, means it's programmed to change its messaging, it can have lights moving around and things of that nature versus a non-digital, but we don't actually say what is a digital sign? What defines a digital sign to our township?
I can check if that's defined in
Yeah.
in the land use ordinance under definitions.
Okay.
Check that. If we need to, we can amend or add that to the definitions under 243-5 if digital sign is identified.
Yeah,
May not be.
okay.
Let's
I mean, if
see.
it's defined somewhere else, then
Under
that's
sign digital.
self-clarifying then.
You're right, it should be defined in here somewhere, right?
Somewhere in our
Yes,
ordinance.
we have signs are defined, signs advertising are defined, sign business are defined, and sign freestanding is defined.
Who's gonna-
But there is no sign digital.
And perhaps you might want to also
I
define
looked
sign
under digital,
billboard,
and there's nothing under
because you specifically exclude billboard.
So we can add a definition for sign, digital, and then there will be even less wiggle room. or
And
room
sign,
for interpretation.
billboard.
I wonder,
I think I saw that.
is billboard defined? Let's see.
It was defined somewhere because,
Well, there are billboards in the township, on state
It's
highways.
a sign that advertises, promotes goods or services. not
Billboard,
sold or
right.
offered
Billboard is
on the
defined.
premises.
Okay.
But maybe,
Yeah, it's just defined as billboard, not sign, billboard. But it's in the ordinance.
Great. Thank you.
So I guess we can add sign digital.
and it would basically be saying that a digital sign is not a billboard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it
'Cause
needs
it's
to
for
say something more than
on-premises.
just that it's not a billboard, though.
Well, yeah. but-
I don't know that I would say that because then you get into I mean, a digital sign can be a billboard, you just don't allow them.
Mhm.
Right, there's plenty of them around. So just add an additional section. So we have section 1 revising Article X general, so we'll have an additional section defining sign, digital in that section 243-5, I believe.
You want it there, or do you want it in, 243-5, yes.
Yeah, in the definitions of the land use ordinance.
And that would actually be section 2, because we go from section 1 to section 4.
Right, I'm sorry, yes.
So,
Following this section.
yeah, the sections have to be
Oh, I see, the sections need to be renumbered.
renumbered.
3, 1, 2, so here.
Where are you looking?
So you have section 1. So in the ordinance itself, section
Oh.
1, section
And
4, section
Oh.
5, section 6. So we'll have to add section 2, that'll be 3, 4, and 5. And then section 2 will be the new definition.
Yeah.
243-5.
I mean, just looking real quick as you were talking, a Google definition says, a signage that uses electronic displays to show dynamic content. I mean, it will be something like that.
Yeah.
Okay. And then with the restrictions are then defined under 243-55A1,
Exactly.
defining freestanding signs, including digital messaging. It's always better to have more.
And I think
Then less.
excluding billboards as defined.
Right. Yeah, digital signs shall not be classified as billboards or something like that.
Would that be something that Tony would be able to
You already have
implement?
digital.
Yeah, that's what I'm like saying.
Right.
I know, we're like triple duplicates.
What aspect of it you mean?
Well, the way they're wording it and wording everything, I mean, for your interpretation of your zoning, do you feel that that would fit your ability to go out and say,
Yeah,
it fits this,
yeah,
it doesn't
yeah.
fit this, it fits that?
Yeah.
No.
The definition of sign is critical though.
Yeah, well, we'll have that, digital sign.
Well, now the question is, does the board want to look at this before it makes a recommendation to the governing body once the revisions are made?
I would say possibly.
That's the board's decision.
Maybe
I mean, what's the,
Consensus?
it's the one additional revision that we're discussing, is
Yeah.
adding a definition of sign, digital. So if the board's comfortable, as Mr. Bryce indicated, then this can be forwarded to the council in 2 weeks for introduction. 'Cause then
it'll
take
always
another-
come back and you can always make further
Are we also
recommendations.
talking about non-digital signs in this section B?
Yeah, section B is generally non-digital.
Right, and adding, I'm sorry, yes, adding non-digital, right. Non-digital building mounted signs.
For me, with the two changes that we discussed, I don't need to see it. I don't need to see it again personally, with the two
You
changes.
will see it again, I promise.
No, before it goes to council is what I mean.
Okay.
I don't think we need to delay it another.
Okay.
It'll be back here if, let's say this definition isn't exactly meeting with your approval, when it comes for consistency determination or review, you guys could make a recommendation.
That's
like, oh,
correct.
change this word, flip these 2 words, and then it would be, and then it's a I don't know the legal term, would be like a non-material change to the ordinance.
It may be
Yeah.
material, but even at that, they just,
It wouldn't prevent it from going to public hearing,
that's right.
so that it could be adopted at the.
It may
June
have to get
meeting.
renoticed, but it would be,
Right. Could still proceed at the
Yeah.
June meeting, once it's introduced in May,
So do we have to make a motion for that to happen?
to recommend it go before.
right now, it's just make a recommendation. The motion would be to make a recommendation to make the changes as noted and forward to the governing body for consideration.
Okay, I'd like to make that recommendation.
I'd like to second that recommendation.
Members Coyle?
Yes.
George?
Yes.
Hardy?
Yes.
Leo?
Yes.
Weeks?
Yes.
Vice Chairwoman Delia?
Last thing on the list is the data center further discussed.
Okay, so same scenario as with the signs. I have looked over the prior version and the edits that you requested. This had a bit more edits than the signage discussion. One of the changes that you requested was that there was a section related to construction management submission requirements, and the notes indicated that you wanted this to actually move into another section of the code so that it would apply to all kinds of projects, not just data center projects. So I took that content, which includes submitting a traffic management plan, truck routes, or defined truck hours, roadway repair bonding, and an emergency access plan. That was all in the prior version that you saw, but I have relocated it now to another section of code that you have in Article 6, application procedures. That seemed like a good place to put it. You also indicated a desire to consider a reduced parking requirement. I did put two options in here based on other standards that seem to be working in the region. One is that parking shall be provided at a rate of 1 space per employee at the max shift. The other option is 1 space per 5,000 square feet of gross floor area. And I wasn't sure if you have a preference as to how things are really measured, or if one gives you a better sense of, you feel more comfortable with one or the other. I could also make it written to say either or, whichever is most. But Dan suggested that I give you the opportunity to express your preference on this. We can come back to that if I just continue running through the changes. I did remove the language that talked about the option for well water provision, that all of that has been deleted. A lot of this is really just like strike-throughs and adding a word here or there without changing the content. I added a section for natural gas feasibility. There had already been sections for example, sewer and stormwater, public water, and general feasibility. So we added the natural gas content, and that includes the same type of requirements as the other sectors, including submitting a demand report and engaging in demand response or peak load management programs. And last but not least, I did add, there was a section, it's under J6 in what you've been given. The prior version did require cost-sharing agreements. We added some more language to that, first referencing Chapter 153 off-track improvements that already exists in the municipal code. This just reiterates that they need to reference that and comply with that. Then also we added some language that says, in addition, any data center development shall be responsible for the cost of any required or requested infrastructure or utility extensions, upgrades, or capacity improvements, to at least attempt to not burden the community with any of the costs associated with infrastructure changes that go along with a data center. Those are the main changes. Again, there's a lot of single words added and struck through here and there, but I think that's really the content that I was prepared to discuss.
I have a question on that.
Yeah, sure.
Maybe my memory doesn't serve me correct, but on G5, full-time non-emergency generators are not permitted. You have that crossed out.
The notes that I had wanted to cross out. Was that an error?
Well, I can clarify that for you, Lou. We had it, I think it's duplicative, and I think that's why I was reading this as well when you had sent this out to me earlier, Kristen. I think we say it later on, and I think the idea was not to be too repetitive. Let me find it. I was reading.
It's actually right above
Right
that.
above it.
Yeah.
It's at the very top, first line of the
F2.
page.
Oh, yeah, the very first line on the page.
Yeah, non-emergency generator operation is prohibited. So that's what we're trying to say, that there shouldn't be full-time. So we're just repeating ourselves in G5, where we already have it in F2. So that's where so we don't want to just, I mean, we want to say that, but we're not seeing it in the same thing multiple times.
Well, shouldn't we put then under F2, full-time non-emergency generators operation is prohibited?
Say that again?
Like just adding the
Shouldn't
language.
it be stated as F2, full-time non-emergency generator operation is prohibited?
And it's just adding full-time to that.
I can add
I
that.
realize that, but
Yeah.
knowing how manipulative they are, they'll be like, well, it's not, it's not emergency, it's not, and we don't do it all the time.
I can
Well,
add
but
that.
that's a problem if you add full-time to it, because
Yeah, I
if
agree.
if I say full-time non-emergency, I can run it every day from 8 till 10 in the morning.
No, it's prohibited.
Right.
Or stating.
But what you're saying is to add the word full-time to it. And I'm saying if you add that, then if I only run my generators every day from 8 till 10, that's not full-time. That's only,
hours.
that's only 2 hours of the
I
day.
realize that, but what's gonna happen is, in my learning here, the short time I've been here, everyone says the same thing. Well, if I say, well, it's not emergency, well, yeah, but it's not even full-time. We're just doing it this little bit of time.
But that's why I'm arguing with you that if you put the words full-time there, you're giving them the reason to say
Yeah, we're
that.
just doing it part-time.
Right, they'll say we're doing
If
it
you
part-time.
don't say full-time and you just say non-emergency generator operation is
I have to
prohibited,
agree.
hard stop,
It should be non-emergency generator operation is prohibited. That is gonna be a problem though, because they do have to do testing of the,
but we covered that in the
Generators.
prior section.
But I think you need,
Define it better.
working in a factory, I learned that they do things a little different. You know that a little bit.
Yeah, we do.
Okay, I'm on your side with that, maybe the wording a little different, okay? Somehow we've got to get it in there that it is power loss.
How about you
Hey,
say,
Hey, this little thing over here is down, so I get to run all these now today.
how about you
That's
say
an emergency,
regular
but it's not really
non-emergency? How about you use something like regular non-emergency use?
I'll side either way, but in my learning, we do backup generators for Merck and Roche, and huge. And the standard is the same thing you're saying.
Yep.
They may run that generator for 1 day or 2 days straight, and it's not an emergency. And they're like, well, it ain't full-time on there, it's not an emergency, we just ran it for a day.
But listen, see, that's exactly why I don't disagree with you, but I disagree with the logic of adding the word full-time, because if you add the word full-time there, then you're giving them the exact excuse that you're arguing against. So my concern is saying full-time, non-emergency, then they can say, well, I only used it for 2 days of the week, that's not full-time, or whatever the case is. It's the wording that I disagree with, not the intent
so
of
what
what
if you
you
said
want to do.
non-emergency generator operation is prohibited and emergency generator
Can you just say
use-
something like
hold on,
generation
generator
is for
use
emergency use only?
can only be used in times of
What's an emergency? check?
power outage.
That might be
Power
different
outage,
than-
yeah, define what it is, exactly. Define the emergency.
Because I watched them flip.
So we don't want them running it like on a peak, they have a peak day where
Yeah.
all the computers are running at higher levels and then they start kicking on their generators.
So it's just tacking on. and then-
Cyber Monday doesn't count as an emergency.
Right.
Yeah. No, you're right about the interpretation of that. Well, it's not full-time.
So is the language that you have, emergency generator use can only be used during times of power outages?
Yeah, I have non-emergency generator operation is prohibited, and emergency generator use can only be used in times of power outage.
Okay,
It can only occur in times of power.
yeah.
Now, there are times where they have to run them just to test them,
But
but
that's for servicing, that's a separate.
Service, once a month, they got to do a test by law.
I don't know if you want to put that in, except
I
as
mean-
required by testing.
I think it's already in here, that we already have
I
testing.
Did I
thought
miss
there
that?
was something, but I could be,
It is in here.
Yeah, it says backup generator testing hours
Okay.
shall be limited to weekday, daytime hours only. So they shouldn't be running them on the weekends or anything.
Middle of the night.
Yeah, in the middle of the night. And we also have all backup generators shall be contained within the principal structure or in a dedicated accessory structure to mitigate noise during testing and during power outages. You don't have outdoor generators running all day and night during power outage.
Now, again, if the board is inclined to make this recommendation to the governing body, can do it by a motion, it will come back to the board again. So you're gonna get a second look at it.
Oh, but did anybody want to comment on the parking?
Oh, my only question with, and this is just me, I always think the
These are
parking
mine.
easiest, only because we're in litigation right now over parking, is just to make it one space per 5,000 square feet.
Okay.
Keep it simple. That's my recommendation.
And if they want less, they can come and get a
They can
waiver.
come and get, yep,
A
that's
design waiver.
exactly right.
If they're saying, we don't need 100 parking spaces, because for a 500,000 square foot facility, they would need 100 parking spaces.
That's exactly
And they
right.
might not need 100 parking spaces.
That's right.
But remember, this is conditional use.
So what you could, it's a variance then.
So if they need less, if they want less parking, they have to get a D variance?
Why don't you do it
Okay, so they don't have an option.
for 10,000 square feet then?
I can make the number, any number that you want.
That's right. And they generally have very little parking, so if you doubled that, so,
I mean, let's be real, no data center is going to not provide enough parking for their employees. Like, that would just be weird.
Yeah.
This is the minimum parking.
minimum.
It's not
Right,
max.
this is the minimum. So, I mean, yes, I could make it 1 per 10,000.
And if they say they need more.
If they need more, they
start-
can make more, but I
And then
think,
they don't need a use, they still don't need a use.
Right.
permit.
That's right.
They're
I think
meeting the
that's
minimum.
okay.
And we'd like to encourage the least amount of parking that will
That's
cover
right.
the employees, so
Absolutely
we have more pervious surface on the property.
Well, we can see our warehouse complex across.
It's
Parking lots are empty.
75% empty, even
Yeah.
when it
They're
was
all
fully
empty.
being used,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
All of that pavement that
All the time.
is
They're
just
empty.
running water off of it.
So do we need to make a motion to accept these recommendations?
Yeah, and if the board is inclined, the board can actually want to see this back. There's not a huge time pressure on this, from my understanding.
As long as we don't get an application
Yeah, that's right.
in the next 2
That's
months.
fair.
Well, I mean, I can turn these both around, this week.
Okay. If the board's inclined to make a recommendation to the governing body with the changes as indicated, it can be a simple motion. It is going to come back in front of the board. You're going to look at it for compliance with the master plan and make recommendations if you see anything that's different.
Make that motion.
I'll second it.
Luann. Okay, roll call, members Foil,
Yes.
George,
Yes.
Hardy, Polito,
Yes.
Weeks.
Yes.
Vice Chairwoman Leo.
Yes. A motion to adjourn?
You have to.
I have to
you
get the thing, don't we have to?
Oh, can I just put it in everyone's ear? I got an email about battery energy storage systems. I don't know a lot about them, but that next meeting, that may be something we may want to.
Like the safety, the fire issues.
Is this for
Well, whether or
residential
not-
or for commercial scale?
Commercial.
Where do they want to do that?
Well, that
Did they say where?
They didn't say, and I didn't reply to them that we don't allow as of right now, but.
But this ordinance that we're recommending right now
We
says
shouldn't
we
be
encourage.
deliberating, that's a zoning issue. We
Yeah,
may
but it
want
would
to,
be, that zoning it was, it's not in our zoning right now, right? So.
Well,
let me talk to you offline about that.
Okay, I guess the question is, unless you don't want me to say, but if there's, let's say it's installed in conjunction with a solar facility, then it's basically ground
Yeah, no,
mounted,
these are.
ground mounted
no.
equipment as part of
I know what they are, they're.
battery
I don't-
storage.
That's why I
battery
asked.
storage.
It's off-grid battery
That's
storage.
exactly right.
The solar panels collect it and then the batteries release the
Not even
power at
solar,
night.
they just
Not,
buy
yeah,
it.
not solar though, even like he's saying, there's
It
other.
pulls off the grid.
Pulls off the
Yeah.
grid.
Interesting.
Stores it, and then when it's needed, they send it back out.
And the way our definitions are, it could have fact if it's commercial use.
It's not just well, I guess, is it a principal use or is it an accessory piece of equipment?
But as a commercial use, it's permitted.
Right.
That's where you get into it.
Well, that's if it's,
And
if it's
really,
the principal use on the lot.
and when you look at the uses, as long as the fire safety aspect is looked at and there's no negative association with it, it's not necessarily a bad use,
Right.
but there's other considerations about where it is, how it's located.
Or what it is. Right, if it's a residential scale, then it's like you put panels on your roof and you put a garage battery in your garage.
These are the size of the building.
Right, this is much
Yeah.
different. Okay. That I haven't seen.
Yeah.
I
We've seen
saw
it.
that based on the fact that I'm not 100% knowledgeable on either, and I know you've got more experience.
Yeah,
That's why-
yeah, certainly.
Yeah, it's something that we should look at.
Right.
Like it could be some of these warehouses, a data center, for example, they have roof-mounted solar, they might have batteries in the building, you know, a bank of batteries that
Yeah, but this is
stores
like he
the-
said, the,
But if it's gonna be the principal use on the lot,
yeah,
that's a different
that's
story.
basically what she was asking.
And then it would be a use
She was
variance
asking.
right away.
Unless it qualifies as commercial use as defined.
Could you qualify it as a utility use?
No, because they're private.
Does the code say public utility?
I don't know. But it's not really a
Yeah, like a
utility.
power
thing
substation
either.
doesn't get a zoning.
I know, it's, they're very
It's
unique.
sticky,
They're-
yeah, like that's
It's
why I
different.
asked.
It's one of the new, it's like a new category, and every
Yes.
town's gonna be like, okay, what do we do?
What do we do with this?
That's
Yeah.
exactly what it
I
is.
haven't heard of that yet, that's the first time.
Now, it's not just this municipality, there's other interests in other municipalities.
Hmm.
And frankly, you know, from the practical perspective, they're quiet, they don't do anything. Once again, it's like a data center, there's no traffic, there's no nothing. The big
Just
issue
boxes in the lawn.
is fire
Safety.
and safety, because
Sure,
they
sure.
are batteries.
Batteries, yeah.
As a matter of fact, what they do say is that the firemen just have to let them burn out.
Yeah, well, it's like the cars, you just let them burn.
Well, in other towns that I work in, who are doing their community energy plans, like one of the initiatives that they're considering is now we have to train the firemen on how to handle this type of fire.
And if they have those fires, is there a contamination issue?
I have no idea.
Yeah, I'm not sure it's so much
Possibly.
contamination as it is just, you know, like you see the scooter fires.
Yeah.
You know, the rechargeable battery
Burns down
fires.
so there's nothing left.
Yeah.
And
So it all went up in
apparently
the air,
these
whatever
fires, and I'm
contaminants.
not a fireman, but apparently
Gotcha.
once these fires go,
Yeah, they can't put them.
you're not putting them out, you just gotta let them burn. And it's about isolating the area and making sure that,
Not letting it spread.
that's exactly right.
It's like
And the
cars
impact
cars
on the
cars
house.
go up in the garage and they burn the house down.
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily a bad use.
Just needs to
It's
be
not
stopped.
necessarily an unsmart use. It just maybe should be a conditional use based upon,
That's our next thing.
Yeah, I know.
We've got data centers, now we have to talk about battery industrial scale or utility,
That's exactly
utility
right.
scale battery storage facilities, I think would be probably the name of, I'll have to look it up as well.
I guess that would be an issue, because the reference was just a standalone, not
Mhm.
anything else.
Yep.
Yeah, there's a lot of those types of newer technologies. There's like on-site fuel cell power generation, where it takes natural gas, puts it through a chemical process, and it produces electricity and water. And that's it, I think, and carbon dioxide.
I'm having a hard time figuring out the practical use case. So they're not generating electric, they're taking it off of the grid.
They're buying it cheap, and during times of,
They're probably buying it from like a solar generator that's not anywhere, it's somewhere on the
Okay.
grid.
Okay,
they're storing it, and when the peak times come, they sell it back.
okay,
And I've seen them a lot on farms,
sure, okay.
because they have big swaths of area that are underutilized, and
And it makes sense if you're doing solar to have that.
Right, that's usually where I've heard of it.
Right,
is
but if
where-
you're not actually generating, you're just buying it from somebody else to store it and sell it back.
I
A
know.
commodity's a commodity.
Yeah.
And that's
Exactly
the
right.
interesting part, and, you know, it makes sense for farmers and other people with large scale, because they can
Easy income.
get the lease.
Sure.
right? And these people even
They
pay
can
the
make
lease,
some money,
and
pay their
pay it
rent.
back, figure out there's enough profit margin in it for them to do it, and make it work. I don't know how that economics works, but they do.
Did someone make a motion?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
In our other
So
towns, we do
engaging
look at
tonight,
it.
but I don't think
Because